After years away, I finally caught the Nurgle bug again, and it's not just because it's flu season. Hello and welcome to Bleeding Tree Gaming. My name's Amy, aka Warpfiend, and in this video I'm going to be returning to a kit I last painted in 2017, the Rotten Plague Drones of Nurgle. I need 3 more of this for the Age of Sigmar doubles tournament in January, so I thought it'd be interesting to do a video where I talk about progressing as a painter. It's a truism that comparison is the thief of joy. Measuring yourself against other people's work is a recipe for feeling bad about your own. We all learn at different speeds. Some of us like to paint things over and over and see gradual improvements. Some of us take a more systematic approach to learning that can see results quicker, but the majority of us will have spikes and plateaus in our learning process. So while comparing yourself to the works of others is futile, it's actually extremely useful and inspirational to compare your current work to your work from the past, and to remind yourself of the progress that you've gained. It's fair to say that my painting style has changed a lot over the last 7 years, so I thought it'd be interesting to try and use the same general colours for this and talk about how I now approach this kind of army painting. Whereas back in the day I was allergic to airbrush painting, now I like to use it sparingly to kickstart a project and get some interesting colour variants down to inform my future choices. I'm going to start by spraying from the sides with some Guardian Green, then spray from above with a bright yellow green. Then I spray from a slight underneath angle with some Royal Purple. And finally some dark hot pink focused right underneath. Even if I end up painting over all of this, it helps spark some creativity with colour choices that will come to fruition later on. With this nice transition in, it's time to start getting in the colours from my original paint job. The body of these is in a yellow-green colour, originally picked to contrast with the red plague bearers that I'd already painted a couple of units of. In this case I'm going to use roughly the same colours I used through the airbrush, but trying to define some of those volumes in a way that I didn't really understand in 2017. The bright yellow-green is fairly transparent, so I spend a lot of time using it as a glaze to tie the Guardian Green mid-tone in with the faded green highlight that I'm applying. I really love this super saturated colour that the yellow-green glaze allows me to achieve. I also want to keep in some of those purple tones underneath as a subtle shadow contrast in the final piece. I'm going to blend to Royal Purple in the shadows for a little extra depth. Then the deepest parts get a touch of dark hot pink. In the original, for the spots and open sores, I just painted Blood for the Blood God all over them. Now this time I'm going to paint them all in Basilisk Red, hitting all the pustules afterwards with some orange brown, and I mixed a little skeleton bone in with that to give me a quick highlight colour. For the wing membrane I'm going to stick fairly close to the original effect, as I feel it's one of the most interesting parts, so I don't recall exactly my method at the time. This time I'm going to be painting them in Royal Purple. Then I use a couple of dry brushes, first with a mix of Royal Purple and faded green, and then with some pure faded green. Finally I mix a little titanium white into that faded green for an edge highlight. Next is the claws, stingers and teeth spread around the model. I base these all in Rhinox hide. Then I highlight up through Scrag brown, and then orange brown. And finally a touch of skeleton bone. Nice and simple, but giving a bit of depth to those filth encrusted keratin surfaces. For the carapace, again I'm mostly keeping similar colours with a base coat of dark jade. Then mix in a little black to shade down a few areas. Before highlighting though, I'm going to tie it back to the original airbrush by bringing in some colours from the opposite end of the spectrum. First with some Basilisk Red, running along all the outer lips of the shell as well as any gaps. Then I emphasise it by painting some areas in dark hot pink. Now back to the blue-greens. I edge highlight the shells with some dark turquoise. Then mix a touch of white into some Hydra turquoise, just get a bit brighter to hit some of the corners. So that's the fly itself done, so now let's tackle the rider. I still have the link to the original tutorial I used saved in my bookmarks, and I found this mega useful when I was starting out to get a really cool dry brushed inflamed flesh effect. So I'll share that in the description with thanks to the original author. However, I want something that plays a bit more to my current strengths, so I'm going to adapt it a little to focus on layering. I first based the Plague Bearer in Rhinox hide. Then it's a case of layering up with some Basilisk red, leaving the brown in the recesses. After that, some Jasper skin to highlight it up. And some Sunny skin tone, largely as an edge highlight. I spend a bit of time glazing those colours to get the right look of infected red flesh. I'm going to wash the boils with some Targor Rage shade just to pump up the definition on them. Then I paint them in the same scheme as the boils on the fly. Similarly, I paint in the nails and teeth with the same method I used on the fly's teeth, and the sword in the same scheme as the carapace. Last step is the bronze metal. Before doing it, I give everything else a good matte coat, but I want to preserve the metallic sheen so it's saved till after. I'm going to give it all a coat of decayed metal. Then I water down some black paint and give it a wash. I do this because I really don't like the finish the current GW washes give. Normally I'd matte it down afterwards, but on metallics you really want to preserve that sheen. Using a regular paint will be better for this. Then I create a pattern of verdigris with some watery dark turquoise. And then some Hydra turquoise. Finally a touch of Necro Gold to roughly highlight it all. So that's the flies finished, but before I cut to some beauty shots to compare the two, I just want to thank everybody who's made it this far. Seeing how much you've progressed versus your past self can be extremely useful. I've been struggling a lot with feeling I'm not where I want to be with my painting after all the time I've taken off from painting due to health issues lately. So my technique has not developed as much as I'd like, and even started slipping in some areas. The main reason I started this series based on hobby theory is that I can still keep my mind active with the theory behind painting, even when my body refuses to cooperate. Being able to directly see the difference between two identical units painted years apart can be a potent reminder that I'm still learning and progressing, and I hope very much that you enjoy following me on this journey through the theory behind hobbying. It would super help out the channel if you could consider subscribing to Bleeding Tree Gaming and dropping a like on this video. And don't forget there's multiple ways to support the channel down in the description. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!